Alright, so at this stage you should have a grasp on how you should plan topics and how you should plan guests. Now let's bring it all together in terms of planning episodes. And again, this is going to be explained in a little bit more detail in the show strategy sheet coming up. But for now, I just wanted to share with you a mental checklist that you and your team should be going through to make sure that you have these points covered. So let's take a look at it. First of all, is topic and guest alignment. This one is pretty obvious, isn't it? Basically making sure that like any topics that you talk about are compatible with the guest and vice versa. The next thing is scripting versus authenticity. A lot of times we see this a lot of times where people, specifically B2B brands, starting their show for the first time, they want to be all professional and corporate with it. And we find that they tend to lean to a lot of like scripting. And even when they say they're not scripting, they're really scripting. And so this is if you're looking for permission to just have something that's unscripted, here it is. Basically, the more authentic you are, the more the podcast episode resembles like a phone conversation or something that's just authentic and laid back and informal, the more it's going to resonate with people. Keep in mind that with podcasts, people spend a lot of time consuming them. And so you need to make sure that the format is laid back so that people can continue to tune in with you and that you can keep their attention for long periods of time. The next one is podcast intros. When it comes to podcast intros, make sure that you have a scripted podcast intro. This one is scripted, and you can play that at the start of every episode. With time, you can start to experiment with whether having a podcast intro or getting straight into it and maybe having the podcast intro come in later after the hook or not come in at all is something that you want to do. This is something that we're currently experimenting with. The next item then would be structuring and segments. Depending on how you want to create your podcast episodes, you may decide that you want to have like a beginning, a middle, and an end, or a beginning and then like some rapid fire questions at the end, or specific topics that you're always asking all of your guests about. You're always asking your guests about topics A, topics B, topics C to get their take on it. Just think about this structure ahead of time, and having structure is really, really good because it makes it almost feel like a game. You're going to be in this room, then you're going to go into this room and then that room. It gamifies the process a little bit more for you and for your guest. And it also makes it a lot easier when it comes to post-production, which we'll talk about a lot more later on, to really like figure out what are the best key moments and how to basically treat every episode, as opposed to leaving every episode to be super abstract where no two episodes are the same structure-wise. Last but not least is making sure that you have a consistent releasing schedule. So whether you're going to commit to once a month or once every 2 weeks or even once a week or more than that, make sure that you commit to it. And so it stands to reason that if you're starting out for the very first time, pick the easiest goal and continue to build on that over time. So maybe pick launching 1 episode a month or maybe 2 episodes a month if you're feeling like it. And then from there, once you build your confidence and once you build up the perhaps backlog of episodes, you will have more confidence to actually release a lot more. The goal really is to get to a stage where you are publishing episodes at least once a week.